Good afternoon. My name is Ralf Strauss. I do have the pleasure to act as the chairman of the board of the European Marketing Confederation. Welcome to this afternoon with the Best in Marketing 2026. So we have a pretty diverse program for this afternoon, talking about a Lifetime Achievement Award, talking about the International Day of Marketing, the European Marketing Agenda, as well as I'm happy that a couple of top-notch CMOs across Europe will team up with us. Thanks everybody for joining. We have had more than 900 registrations for this afternoon, so an amazing feedback already, and people like to see more on what we are doing and what are best practices across Europe. So thanks for joining first of all, and I will try to make it jointly with my colleagues knowledgeable, interesting, as well as entertaining for this afternoon. Thanks for joining again. So Best in Marketing, as I said already, more than 900 people are joining us this afternoon. And later we're going to come back to top-notch CMOs from Telia, from Lithuania, from Portugal, Puretos, from Kyndryl in Spain. So a quite diverse industry setup on different colleagues, but they all share the same passion and professionalism in marketing. So already I was so lucky to have a chance to chat with many of them before and always learning something, learning how they manage their organizations, how they really bring marketing into the world. For all questions, we are trying to make it as interactive as possible, so please ask your questions via Slido, slido.com, code EMC. So you can put all those questions in, and over the course of this afternoon, we are trying to pick out one or the other of those questions. So please feel free to contribute, to ask questions, share your ideas, so make it just not a one-sided broadcast, but more sort of an interactive discussion also with all the participants. First of all, introducing ourselves. European Marketing Confederation. When I was young, naive, good-looking, I had long hair. I entered European Marketing Confederation this time as a president of the German Marketing Association, something like 7-8 years ago meanwhile. European Marketing Confederation was founded in 1993. And EMC is a non-profit organization, and the members of the European Marketing Confederations are the national marketing associations across Europe. So today, we do have the pleasure that we have something like 14 different marketing associations across Europe being part of the European Marketing Confederation. As you can see here, from the UK, Germany to Lithuania, Netherlands, Portugal, Finland, or Belgium. What I love is all colleagues and representing something like 100,000 marketing professionals across Europe. They all do share the passion and the love for what we are doing. And their main driver is they're keen to really further enhance their skill sets on doing marketing, sales, marketing, and service in the right way. In particular, in these days, where everybody's looking for quality and depth and content, the exchange between marketing professionals on different levels is even more important than ever before. So before we get started, also, I need to give a warm and huge thank you to all our sponsors. It's Fabula, it's ZoomTV, Rocket Science, or Reclamos. Thank you very much for helping us and supporting us to make this afternoon possible. Thank you on behalf of the board of the European Marketing Confederation for being our partners and sponsors on this afternoon. Best in Marketing, celebrating, first of all, the International Day of Marketing. We implemented the International Day of Marketing, I guess, 3 to 4 years ago. And the idea is really to have, as other professions as well, do have one day where everybody is joining and teaming up, giving all hands for exchanging ideas, exchanging best practices, and celebrate the profession. How we further expand the profession, how we elaborate on what we are doing, and how we professionalize everything we are doing, actually. This was the background idea of the International Day of Marketing across Europe. So what we are trying to do today is, number one, give you a short introduction on the International Day of Marketing. Number two, we do have the pleasure to announce the Lifetime Achievement Award 2026. I will give a short heads up on the European Marketing Agenda 2026, which we published already in January, February this year. And I love at the end of the session to have a discussion with colleagues from different countries, which are already named, on a panel discussion to say, what are the challenges and how do you manage it? I guess today there's never been a more interesting time in marketing than ever before. For myself, working something like 35 years or so in marketing and sales, which reminds me how old I am, which is a bad thing. But it's really one of the most interesting times we could ever imagine. So all the things we've been discussing on permission marketing, CRM, hyper-personalization comes now into effect using AI. So all organizational setups, all discussions on tools and IT usage and data-driven customer interaction now are under scrutiny. We need to work on it and see how are we going to elaborate the marketing organization in the future. Which skills do we need to have internally versus externally? Which sort of agency setups do we have in the future? That's all about marketing today. So again, starting with the International Day of Marketing, this is the day really to have a look into that and say, how do we further enhance and elaborate the marketing profession? So welcome all the 27th of May to the International Day of Marketing. We got feedback across the European Marketing Confederation already that all the different marketing associations are celebrating. If it's in Lithuania, if it's in Switzerland, if it's in Germany, if it's in Netherlands, if it's in Spain. So everybody's really doing something on that. Is it's events, is it's webinar, is it's joint meetings, if it's podcasts, if it's press releases. So everybody's really teaming up to say, how do we enhance our profession in the future? What is the status quo? And what are the things really we can be proud on? And what are the areas we need to further work on? So again, welcome to the International Marketing Day. So the idea of the International Day of Marketing is inviting marketing professionals, organization communities to really mark the occasion in their own way, sharing insights, personal stories on social media, team discussions, educational initiatives and stuff like that. So basically contributing, strengthening and celebrating the marketing profession in a global way. Also happy to say that we, over the last, I guess 1 year, we've been teaming up with colleagues in Asia and Africa who are doing the same thing at the same time. Thanks also, I saw in the registrations that a couple of colleagues from Asia and Africa also have been able to join this webcast this afternoon. Welcome on behalf of the European Marketing Confederation again. So as said, we got plenty of feedbacks across Europe already where marketing associations and marketing clubs are celebrating the Day of Marketing. So thanks for the interest. Thanks for the overwhelming feedback we've been receiving so far. So everybody said, well, it's absolutely needed. Other professions also do have some sort of special day marked in their calendars. Although we as a marketing and sales profession, we need to have something like that. And it's just amazing which sort of wave is going specifically across Europe where everybody is teaming up and is just doing something on this special day. Within the International Day of Marketing for the last years, we have set up an award, the Lifetime Achievement Award for Marketing. The idea is that we honor an individual who has made an outstanding contribution to the marketing profession. So it's not an organization, it's just an individual. This person should have had a significant impact on how we think about marketing, how we do marketing, and who really has contributed significantly to the way we think about marketing. In 2026, for the first time, the process also expanded to include marketing confederations across Africa and Asia to give the award more sort of global significance. So again, thanks to all colleagues across Asia and Africa, which I've always found amazing is how much support and feedback we are receiving, because all colleagues in Africa and Asia also say, we have pretty much the same issues like you have in Europe. Is it how do I set up my organization? How do I deal with an AI enhanced or AI native marketing and sales organization? Which sort of skills and competencies do I need to have? So it's pretty much, even if some countries are more far enhanced or a little bit backwards, they all share the wish really to exchange ideas and best practices. And also focusing on thought leaders really in the range of marketing. So this is what the idea of the Lifetime Achievement Award is all about. So the election process is pretty easy. So the member countries across Europe, Africa, and Asia were invited to nominate candidates. So really saying, what are the man or woman who most significantly influenced your way of thinking about marketing? So nominations were collected by us and voted on the national marketing associations. And at the end of the day, the EMC board made then the final decision on the winner. And over the last years, we've been luckily been able to get a couple of highly renowned colleagues coming to the table and receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award. In 2023, it was Philip Kotler, basically, who imprinted the notion of marketing many, many years ago. In 2024, it was Simon Sinek. And last year, we did have the honor to honor Byron Sharp, with whom we also had a webinar then on how brands grow. So as said before, we are always looking for people, contributors who significantly changed the way we think about marketing and really made an impact on how we deal with this profession. And now, announcing this year's winner. We are happy, and I was happily having all the chat with him, that this year's winner for the Lifetime Achievement Award will nobody else than Seth Godin. So a wholehearted congratulations, Seth. Unfortunately, you will not be able to be with us this afternoon, but I'm pretty sure you're going to see the recording afterwards. So a wholehearted congratulations from all of us for the Lifetime Achievement Award. Seth, over the last 20, 25, 30 years or so, has really made an impact in marketing, talking about permission marketing, one-to-one marketing, viral marketing. So without spamming customers, it's basically to say, what is a good compromise between making your point and trying to get an impulse to your customer, but without spamming them. So some things we talk, I think today about what are good thresholds in terms of not spoiling customers has been pretty much imprinted by the work of Seth. So Seth, from all of us, congratulations, and we are happily to send them the trophy after the webinar over to you to New York City. And Seth, when we get started, he also said, well, marketing is not about hustle of advertising. It's always a commitment to doing work that matters for people who care. And we have now today, in particular with AI-driven organizations and data-driven platforms, we now have the tools to create value and how each of us has the opportunity to choose and show up and lead. And from his perspective, particularly, we also do have further enhanced the marketing profession in a way to say we enhance our skill sets, since otherwise we will not be able to use those tools in a proper way. So it's about us, it's a conceptual question and not only a tool question. Thus, for all of us, congratulations again. But the International Day of Marketing, although we would like to stress something else. Every year we get started, I guess in November already, we ask colleagues across Europe and now Asia and Africa, what are your strategies? What are your hurdles? What are your barriers for the next year to come? And out of this, we produce a European marketing agenda, which might be downloaded. I guess it's 28 or 30 pages from the website www.emc.be. And European Marketing Agenda was an AI adoption, customer experience, omnichannel excellence, and as drivers for competitive change. So what I'm trying to give you now for the next 20 minutes or so, a short overview about many of the findings we have had in the European Marketing Agenda, and then start the roundtable panel discussion with our CMO colleagues across Europe. So if you want to have the full Monty, the full book to the film, please just go to our website and you can download the studies there. As I said, over the last years, we've been always asking something between 8,000 to 10,000 executives across Europe on what are your strategies, hurdles, perspectives for the next year to come. How do you deal with sustainability? How do you deal with AI? Are you using AI agents already? How do you structure your organization around it? And what is very nice, we always received between 1,800 to 2,000 responses across Europe. Now, this year, for the first time, also again, thank you very much for all colleagues in Asia and Africa. We've been teaming up also to making some sort of cross comparisons between what are Asian colleagues thinking about hurdles and barriers and strategies in marketing in comparison to African or Europeans. So thanks for teaming up with us on this exercise. So as I said, we asked 10,000 CMOs, senior marketing executives, and board members in marketing, sales, and service in the countries of the European Marketing Confederation, and this year now teaming up with colleagues across Asia and Africa. Topic areas was AI, maturity of using AI, agentic AI usage, but also customer experience management, online channel, or reasons for projects failing. After having worked 20 years in corporate organizations, what is always interesting for me is pretty often projects are being started with a lot of enthusiasm and good vibe in the room. And then afterwards, a lot of those projects never come into effect. They fail, they will be stopped. So what is the root cause for that? So although we have one area in there, reasons for projects failing. In total, we have been able to generate across Europe, Asia, and Africa almost 1,900 full answers. This means questionnaires being fully filled out. Thanks to everybody filling out those questionnaires. I know since I built the questionnaire, that the questionnaire is pretty nasty and pretty cranky, since it's pretty detailed. But again, thank you very much to 1,900 people who filled it out. Nevertheless, let me give you a couple of examples on the results. As I said, the fully written study is available anyway on the net. What is the focus for the next year? What is the focus for 2026? It's all on AI. Yes, we need to get our arms around AI. How can we enhance efficiency and effectiveness in our internal processes? Usage of AI in marketing and sales, but still pretty much head-to-head is sales and performance management. So it's welcome to the world of and. It's not either AI or sales or brand, but all these topics go hand in hand. They're all combined with an and in the middle. So how do I do AI and sales and performance marketing? How do I do and brand management? And how do I then focus also and on marketing operations on the entire execution? Which is really stressful for all our organizations. It's not doing either one thing or the other thing, but do it all in parallel, please. Reduce headcounts, reduce budgets, and do everything in parallel. So that's a pretty stretch for the organizations. The focus and the good news is across all countries and across all continents, still hardly anybody said that there will be a decrease in spendings and marketing budgets. So 33% say we're going to increase marketing budgets. Since the strategy for data-driven customer interaction and using AI, we cannot stop. We need to invest in it. Whatever the economical uncertainties mean, but we need to first invest in it, or at least it's going to remain the same as in 2025. So only a small number of organizations and companies really said, yes, we have to decrease. So the journey into the data-driven, AI-driven customer interaction will continue also in the future on a broader scale. And we asked them also, what is your basic strategy for going to market? The top of mind was customer intimacy. This means we need to have customer experience management, building trustworthy AI systems, pricing strategies, data privacy, and stuff like that. Asking them in customer intimacy, well, you already had that as a strategy for the last years. So how far are you when it comes, for example, to customer experience management, CRM implementations? Are you using that stuff really? Is it really working as an end-to-end process? And the answer was only on 15 to 20% of the organizations say, yes, we are doing that. That means on the other side that 80% of the companies have not yet been able really to leverage CRM systems, even if their focus is customer intimacy. On the other part is what they all came back to us and said, we need to increase speed in execution. So we need to have real-time marketing automation, consistent customer experience across all touch points, and we need to focus more on marketing operations management. So as said before, we're working on customer intimacy, customer experience management, but still with high speed pressure. And again, this means very much it's not having endless discussions anymore, but do more, do it faster, be better, try to prevent projects from failing, and still trying to focus on customer intimacy. So again, as I said before, the burden on the organization is pretty high. And Meta phrased it pretty well, which he stated, execution is not longer an implementation detail. It's now the competitive battleground in the enterprise AI agent race. And this also applies to the marketing function, not only to IT providers or platform providers, but also to the marketing function. Focus on customer intimacy, focus on the brand, but do it all at high speed. So in earlier years, when I started being on the job, you had a CRM implementation taking 2-3 years or something like that. It's not acceptable anymore. Something needs to be up and running. It's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2, 3, 4 months, okay, but nothing else. So we need to have more focus on speed and details in execution. Again, stressful for the organization. And still, the entire market will be swamped with applications. So the last Martech report showed more than 15,500 applications in the marketing and sales space. It's a 10,000% growth since 2011, and they're growing at 34% per year since 2011, which is just amazing. And AI-based applications are growing between 70 to 80% per year. You have no overview anymore which sort of application is the right one for you. But as I said before, please implement it at high speed, and please, this time at least, make it work seamlessly directly in the organization. And the future will be even more weird. AI agents are taking over tasks independently. So already in the 80s, 90s, we've been talking about process automation. Then in data science, marketing mix modeling, pretty much over the last 10, 12 years or so, we've been talking about supervised AI, machine learning, and over the last 3.5, 4 years, talking about generative AI, large language models generating text, image, and videos. And now everything is moving into agentic AI. So more standalone components, IT components, which are taking over tasks independently, which is really something new for us. Wow. It's not just like a monolith CRM system anymore, which you're trying to implement. No, it's thousands of little agents which you implement, taking dedicated tasks, which is interesting on the one side from an IT perspective, but also again gives stress to the organization. Since if you look more from an IT perspective for a second, you will have 2 layers in the future. You have one layer, so-called system of truth. So all the data layer, having all your customer data in place. If it's ERP data, if CRM data, if it's a customer data platform, or what the heck ever. So get your data really in order. You need to get consolidated, aggregated, and clean data, because this is the foundation for all models and all AI models being plugged on top. If we ask across Europe, only 20% or so of the companies say, yes, we have aggregated, consolidated data. This means on the other side, 80% say, we are already missing the point of data availability and quality. On the upper side, the systems of context, in the future, you will have thousands of different AI agents always take in dedicated tasks on the system of context on the customer front end, which is cool. You're not using large-scale CRM implementations anymore, but more focusing on small, dedicated little agents taking over little tasks for you. The problem and the challenge is the understanding of process and domains. To turn it the other way around, if you don't know your processes, you will have a hard time really to make those AI agents work in the best way they're intended to do. Again, asking, how good are you in process understanding? It's not just a process, it's just something which occurs somewhere, but you have a good understanding on and details how the process really works. Again, only something like 20% of companies come back and say, yes, we have a good understanding and we have some sort of process model behind, so we are pretty well prepared for using agents. Again, posing stress on the organization. Number one, clean up your house in terms of getting data availability and quality to the table. Number two, also get some sort of knowledge how our process is being run. Working with companies, international companies, pretty often one country has completely different processes than the other country, even within one company. So we need to find some sort of common framework and process models. And so today, the majority of companies is pretty much in an early phase when it comes to using AI. We are exploring areas, there's already initial pilot phases, yes, we are building on our own initial experiences. Only 12% of the companies really say, yes, we're already at the stage of professionalism and we are able to scale AI agent usage. Pretty often, and even more press statements say that, projects in AI fail. Pretty similar before as we had with CRM and also. So this is nothing new, if we are honest with each other. We already had that in the past. Everybody's complaining about CRM projects failing, customer data platform projects failing, or what the heck ever. But with AI, pretty much the same happens again. And what is missing is depth, quality, know-how, how to do things, exchanging best practices. And this is the point where we as marketing associations need to team up and provide platforms for certification and exchange of best practices. What are the barriers of AI and how AI will change the way we do business is basically the lack of understanding and know-how. Basically, what is it? How does AI really help me in concrete operational processes? Number two is also, we still have not consistent customer experience across all touch points. And holy shit, we need to get some sort of consolidation of our data points. We don't have it yet. If you looking back at the discussions Seth Godin has, for example, in permission marketing, or we have had with Peppers Rogers over the last 25, 30 years on CRM, customer experience management, many of those questions are not new, but the pressure to get it resolved as of today is just increasing tremendously. So when we ask, so basically it's changing the organization and the way we work. So what are the biggest difficulties in applying and selecting AI applications in your corporate environment? It's pretty much expertise within the team. Do I have the right skill sets on the team? Do I have the knowledge of the technical capabilities of all systems, and then plugging all those systems together? But first of all, it's a know-how game. Do you understand what it's doing? After being working for 20 years in large corporate organizations, what's always interesting for me is that when a project once started, sometimes people are using words in a completely different way. So if somebody's talking, for example, about marketing automation, everybody in the room has a different picture in his or her mind what they are talking about. So what we need to do is, on a scalable way, really enhance the expertise across the marketing functions and in the organization. And everybody agrees on that. They say, yes, absolutely. It's pretty much a game of expertise and know-how. But honestly, it's something like a catch-22. While almost 100% of the companies state a lack of know-how, only 11% say, well, we have something like a granular skills and competency framework. We know exactly which sort of skills do we want to have, which skills do we need to enhance, where we are as an organization and where we do need to have further training. 27% no dedicated program. So you complain about lack of skill sets, but basically there's nothing there. Or you have something like training on the job, learning by doing, or I'm just sending you to some sort of fancy conferences. Again, only 11% of companies really took the time, took the effort, took the work pain also to elaborate a little bit deeper to say, what are specific competencies we need to build up? What are competencies also we will be able more to outsource to external partners, to agencies? Only 11%. So one of the players, if you read through the European Marketing Agenda 2026, is the topic is not anymore a technical and IT application battle. It's a battle with the organization. How do we build up scale and help organizations to digest all the tools and all the opportunities which are available today? So there's a good chart from Scott Brinker, which I stole. It's the challenge is basically that the technology, the marketing technology, is developing at an exponential rate, and the organization is lagging behind. So how do we really enhance the organization? Which skills and competencies do I need to have? How do you implement cross-functional teamwork? How do you implement something like a learning organization? And some of the concepts, quite honestly, have already been discussed in the 1990s, 1960s. The learning organization. Now, this is absolutely nothing new. But so far, the majority of those concepts failed in the practical implementation. And now with AI, the pressure is heating up to make those concepts really work in a professional environment. This applies also to zero-click search. So all the specifically fast-moving consumer companies are complaining about that their reach is declining. Click-through rates in Google are going down. The old model, I, as a fast-moving consumer goods company, I offer you content, and you, as Google, for example, you provide me reach in the market. It's just dropping aside. What is required now to influence the large language models is we need content. Content which is fresh, local, in-depth, with different content structures, high degree of personalization, relevance, content frequencies, and reliability. So it's more or less to say, everybody coming back and say, well, it's pretty much a content management / relevance game in the market in terms of filling up the failing click-through rates due to zero-click searches and LLMs. Okay, we are coming back to things which we already discussed probably 10, 12 years ago, but now it's not just fancy stuff anymore, but it's a requirement for us to survive then in the future and to be present in the market and compensate for the lack of reach. One other topic we've been asking is the predominant strategy. Everybody's saying, yes, we want to move into online channel. There's seamless experience across all channels. So from a single channel to multi-channel, cross-channel, then fully integrated experience across all channels. Unified data, consistent journeys, every touch point. So this is some sort of the paradigm and there's a target picture what we're looking for. And we ask, okay, again, pretty similar as with customer experience management. This is nothing so new. How far are you? How many of you companies really have saying that they implemented online channel in a successful way? Again, we come only across 15% or so. Then we ask them, what is hindering you? Since the concept of online channel is just striking, it's just self-explaining. Highest complexity, but maximum customer engagement. We need to follow that path. What is hindering you really not implementing online channel? The failure is pretty often cost, resources. Setting up online channel, well, that's a torture. Integration of different IT applications and synchronizing data. My mother would have said to me in earlier years, son, you have to do your homework first. So it's not so much an artificial thing. It's pretty much doing your homework, getting processes together, aligning processes, aligning applications, aligning data points. Again, nothing new. It's not something fancy. and interesting and compelling and exciting. No, it's just doing homework. And this is pretty often what is missing to implement something like omnichannel. This leads also, what we need to have is different forms of cooperation, for example, between the business area and IT. And it often feels like being married. To cite Mark Twain, basically sometimes in those projects, omnichannel, AI implementations, it's an attempt to solve problems together that you don't have on your own. So it's basically to get people together working from different angles, having different forms of education in their backgrounds, but really come together and say, we have a common theme, we have a common objective, we have a common target picture, which we're trying to fulfill. And everybody is coming to the table with cross-functional expertise. Does it work out in the majority of companies? No, not really. My grandpa would have said, you can only help people who talk to each other. Sometimes it's just a question on how do we find some sort of translation layers in the companies that people are really teaming up. Again, is this new? No, it's not new. But the push, the need now to get it resolved is higher than ever before. Otherwise, and all studies shows it, pretty similar as what we've seen in the European Marketing Agenda, 80 or more than 80% of projects fail. Now you can sit back and say, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, laugh on that and say, hey, guys, that would not happen to me. No, I've seen across various companies, good guys, highly intelligent, Champions League guys, but the projects have been failing. You have not been able to get everybody together to play it in a joint symphony. One is playing AC/DC, the other is playing Bad Bunny. So how do you bring people really together? And it's not a question of IT applications anymore. It's a question, how do you make it digestible in an organization? So we asked them, wow, if 80% of projects fail, wow, a lot of frustration in the room. What is the root cause for that? So number one, people coming back and say, well, we're always trying to do too many things in one step. Yeah, we have multi-projects and we are just spread all over the place. Second thing is, what is missing is functional expertise. Do we know what we're talking about? Do we really have all the joint understanding? Do we have a joint target picture in mind? And are we really teaming up and working together? So if you look at across all these elements, this has nothing to do with IT or something like that. It's just pretty much, it's organization project management questions. Lack of cross-functional teamwork. How do I get people really to work together? So over the last 50, 60, 80 years, we've been setting up organizations due to functional specialization in silos. Now we need to break up those silos again and get people in more sort of a project manner working together in joint projects. And as said, and this is my last chart on the European Marketing Agenda 2026, this might be one of the most interesting times ever been working in marketing and sales. So while we had in the past the illusion of deterministic projects with detailed roadmaps, now we need to switch over to probabilistic events. It's an MVP testing at high speed. Processes as pain in the neck. Now we need to focus on processes. This is the core of a data-driven customer interaction. Now we need to build up expertise. It's not sending somebody to a conference for having a party in the evening, but really depth in quality and contact based on skills and competency frameworks. And all the sales is changing from pure transactional selling, moving over to behavior science-driven sales based on data. So I'm combining what Cialdini, for example, has described in the principles of persuasion, combining psychological elements with data. Again, we need to clean up our data. And we will move forward in some sort of AI native marketing and sales organizations in the future, where IT doesn't matter. There was a good book, I guess, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that. John Carr, IT doesn't matter. Today, this is the situation. I would not have dared some 10, 12 years ago to say IT doesn't matter. But from the IT perspective, all tools, all flexible, configurable tools are available. So IT is not the bottleneck anymore as it was in the past. The bottleneck today is the organization, silo structures, processes, and legacy, and not cleaning up data. So while we had in the past all the cancer-like growth of application landscape, now we need to clean it up, get more ideas on how do we build an ecosystem platform, the foundation for future growth in the AI and data-driven customer interaction. And while over the last years, it's been pretty much all about being digital and AI, now what we do see also in the European marketing agenda, as well as in interviews, it's the brand is your API. So it's not only digital, but it's also brand. To really driving, to say it in the words of Byron Sharp, the mental availability of people before they even enter a large language model and look up for something, they already have some sort of priming before, have the mental availability of your brand in their minds so that they directly go to your brand. So it's, again, as I said, it's not one or the other, but all these topics are combined with an and. And this gives stress to the organization. So I'm happy really to shift over to say, let me open up and come to my colleagues in the roundtable. First of all, I'm happy to welcome Laurence Herbert from Belgium, the CMO of Poratos, and she won the European Marketer of the Year 2026. Laurence, happy to have you with us, first of all. And the second is a wonderful colleague from Spain, Cesar Romera, CMO for Spain and Portugal of Kyndryl, and being nominated of the top 10 best European marketers in 2026. And if you have ever a chance to see a presentation of Cesar, it's just lovely, entertaining, and full of insights out of all his work he's been doing so far. From Lithuania, happy to have her with us, Vaida Jokonienė, the CMO of Telia in Lithuania, also being in the range of the top 10 European marketers for 2026. Happy to have you with us, Vaida. And last but not least, as I said before, please ask your question via Slido. All the while we have a discussion now with these lovely colleagues across Europe. Ask your questions and I will try to pick up one or the other questions in the course of the running. So saying this, welcome to the roundtable, Laurent, Cesar, Vaida. Happy to have you with us. The first question is really stress on the organization. Laurence, I saw the video from yourself on where my colleague Martin Heusmann visited you in Belgium, and you said, well, it's not about me, it's about my team. How do you get all these topics? How do you make it distillable in your team?
Well, first of all, Ralph, thanks a lot for the great presentation, and thanks for having all of us here in this round table, in this panel discussion. Well, it's a permanent challenge, I would say, but what for me, the essence of marketing is to define the long-term vision and strategy and to stick to that course. And of course, throughout the year to continuously adapt because we live in a very uncertainty and we continuously need to adjust the course, but always with the long term in mind. And what we try to do with the team is to define the plan for the year and then to continuously check, are we still on plan or not? And everything that comes on top, we're asking ourselves, will it contribute to delivering the business objectives that we had set? If not, let's not do it. If yes, well, let's consider to take it on top and then see if we need to post something or if we can just add it to the equation. But it's a permanent consideration, I would say, and not an easy game.
Yeah, but how do you manage it, Cesar? I experience you also as a guy really focused on working with his organization. Every week you come up with something new. Yeah. Last week you told me we're going to have a big event. Next week it will be AI-driven marketing automation. The week afterwards you need to enhance skills. So it's a never-ending story. For me as an employee and working with you, and then you say, "Hey, Cesar, leave me alone." Yeah, what else is coming up? So it's never it's a point where we stop but it's an endless, continuous journey. How do you communicate it without frustrating everybody, Cesar?
Well, that what you are describing, it's very true. This is happening. So I suffer in myself as CMO. So before I'm telling you what we have in mind as a strategy, I can tell you that it's under my responsibility to be a first wall to kind of protect my team, not to protect, but to drive in the good direction to my team, because this is unbelievable. I was telling to my wife this morning, I really cannot attend every single very nice and interesting event, conversation, roundtable that I'm receiving, because it's endless, and the topics are very interesting. So I cannot agree more with Laurence, what he said before. For me, if you ask me, it's about to have criteria and clarity, and to be focused on the medium and long term objectives, where you really are sure that you want to put your company, how you can best help the board of director and the business to go to the medium and long term strategy. And that's clarity. And to be fair, this is about more or less three, four things. And so it's about clarity, criteria, and to be sure that you transmit this criteria and criteria to your team. That's what
Mm.
I think and what I try to do. And it's not so complex. I mean, stay calm, focus, criteria, and it's the decision is more about what to don't do than to what pick
Mhm.
up to do. It's about to decide what you are not doing.
Yeah. It's a question is always, it's always a discussion under speed. Yeah, it's not before. As you said, Laurence and Cesar saying, well, we have some sort of strategy and we know where to go to. Yeah, those the good old days. But now everything is coming in at high speed. And Sergio, how do you manage it? Looking at McDonald's, for example. Yeah, now your US colleagues headquarters calling. Sergio, do something else. Then your local organization is yelling at you to say, do something else. And your customers say, well, we would like to shift basically the way where how we consume food. So how do you manage to do everything now in a good way, but at high speed? How do you manage it? It's just getting frightening.
Yeah, so it's not an easy task, of course. It's very interesting timings we are living now, very complex also. I think one key thing for me that I try to incorporate every time in the organizations is never lose sight of the customer and of the strategy, right? So because with this economic uncertainty and all these AI disruptions, it may be a bit easy for organizations to be a little less focused on customers and focus more on reducing costs, on efficiencies, and so on. So it's very important to have like a framework on what is the strategy about, what are you trying to achieve, and then always try to see how and when and where AI can accelerate that.
Mm.
There are a couple of very good examples, of course, in marketing in this case. So the AI, of course, can get the marketeers rid of tasks where they do not add value, and can invest more time in training agents and models to know better the customers, to be more efficient, to have more information for better decisions and better insights. And I think one important thing that this will bring to marketeers is also more autonomy on decision. So today we see there's a lot of escalation on decision making and so on.
Mm.
And I think the AI has this potential to make everyone in the company, in the marketing organization, for instance, much more equipped to be the best decisions, and not need to wait until someone more senior to provide more
Mm.
feedback, more experience.
Mm.
And so there are a lot of good things, of course, huge potential to accelerate the already existing capabilities. But I think the challenge is always try to see that in a bigger picture, right? Of the organization, of focus on the customers. I think we as marketeers and CMOs should be focused on ensuring that the organization remain with that kind of focus.
Uh, Absolutely. But the question then is basically going over to Vida. is saying, since you're in a telco organization, you're at the forefront of all technical developments. Which sort of competencies and skills should I build up as a marketer now for the future? At the end, it's a question about single persons. Yeah, do you have the skills? Do you have the capabilities on really making sensible usage of those tools? What would be your recommendation if you would look back, the younger Vaida, yeah, being 18 years old? So what would you recommend to the younger Vaida?
Well, I would probably recommend the same I'm doing today also, because I think our profession this is the best profession, I think, because it pushes you to learn all the time, to be interested in everything what's happening. So I guess this era and AI era is also so much demanding for learning, and basically learning agility is the key requirement coming into marketing team. So we hired previously people for certain skills already, but everything is changing so quickly nowadays. Tools are changing, and they are developing, and they are, getting old. So you have to be ready to basically learn and study and be open, be curious, to experiment. You need to invest your personal time into that as well, a lot. So basically, yes, that you have to really be interested in everything what's happening, and that is broad. You have to be, first of all, interested in business, in your business, in every small detail. You need to understand your business. So this is occupying your time as well. But additionally, this is about really willing to learn and be open, not to go into, not to close yourself in a specialist expert role, but aim to see broad, see the bigger picture as much as possible. That is a good marketer today.
But the question is also picking up one of the questions from Hans. How do we prioritize hiring individuals with genuine marketing skills over AI-based marketing support? So what should be the focus? You already know and understand business, or is it more sort of, already and understand AI? Or is it sort of, no, don't hire for skills, more the old Steve Jobs saying, more hire for professionalism and the person behind, without in your organization then afterwards streamlining those persons. How do you do that with Puratos? Laurence, it's how do you find the right skills, the right people? How do you do that? Since normally when you're in a hiring manager, you always have a tendency to pretty much looking for people who are pretty much the same as you, which is something completely normal, yeah, unfortunately.
Well, I think I try to do the opposite. So meaning I always try to surround myself with people who are better than me and who are extremely experts in domains I'm not an expert in. I'm more, in the end, a generalist. I've been in many different roles. I ended up in marketing, which is my most preferred role. And I have a true love for the profession. But I know I don't know a lot of things. And so trying to surround yourself with people who are better than yourself and who could easily take your job is basically, for me, has always been a strength, because they elevate you and they always keep on challenging you. So for me, AI is truly an enabler, but first of all, you need to have the people with the right mindset, and as Vaida said, with the right curiosity. And to come back on your question about speed, I believe as well that you need to pick your battles. You need to define as a marketeer where you want to have a point of differentiation, something that competition doesn't have. And Puratos is, for example, a B2B company, but we decided to be the best B2B2C marketeers. And to do that, we heavily invested in consumer insights. Because we believe that if we understand our customer's customer, we will add value to our customers' business. And then, of course, companies like McDonald's can testify if we do that, yes or no. But as consumer insights are, for us, the key differentiator, we decided to speed it up. And back in the days, we did qualitative and quantitative research. And now with COVID, we decided the world is changing so fast, we need to keep a finger on the pulse of consumers. Let's do social listening. Let's analyze everything that consumers say through Google searches, but also AI searches, and see which trends could be popping up. And then we put ourselves a challenge, and we said, within a limited number of days, we need to have a concept ready to present to our customers with potential trending products. And it's by forcing yourself on the areas where you want to be distinctive from competition, by forcing yourself to bring the element of speed, that you can succeed. But for me, you don't need to speed it up on a lot of things. You need to choose your battle and then be extremely strict with yourself. Put your level of excellence very high and go for it until you meet the finish line with your team.
But that means, Laurence, picking on that point is that means also finding the right people who are keen to eager to further develop themselves and who know by heart that they might be different than you. It's that I guess at McDonald's you get 1,000 applications per week on your table. Huh? And how do you pick and choose the right ones? Sometimes it doesn't help to look at a fancy CV, but really to understand the person behind. How do you manage that?
Yeah, it's very important, not very different from Laurence have described. I would only add the idea of having a complementary team, right? So trying to understand what are our strengths today, and see every new people coming for the new function as an opportunity to have a more diverse team, to reinforce some skills that may be missing a bit on the existing team. And of course, these days, it's an opportunity to bring probably more people that are more keen to use AI or with this kind of mindset, because I believe that in these days and in the near future, it will be important to have a mix of both kind of skills, right? The traditional marketing skills will still be key to succeed, as AI will level up the information on the market level. So it will be very important to continue to invest on brand building, on strategy, insights, differentiation, as Laurence was saying. But of course, that is not enough, because we need to have more empowered marketeers that can do that, but working with much more information, much more insights coming from AI. So that is important, that kind of complementarity. And also the soft skills. I think that soft skills will also play an even more important role in this context, as we already talked about curiosity, the ability to make decisions, the courage to make decisions in these so complex and so uncertain timings, being able to learn and to understand that, and to recognize that we are far from knowing everything, any of us, and the newcomers also. That is also a very important skill for people to really accelerate the progression and towards the constant improvement, to have a more and more stronger team, the faster that is possible in this context.
Yeah, but the question is always, what are the main constraints really doing some sort of organizational development? Vaida, coming back to you, since is it skills, is it competency, is it the willingness to change? If it's existing processes, functional silos, is the IT application landscape? So what is hindering? So all the things also Sergio and Laurent said, yeah, okay, we might have discussed already 10, 15 years before, yeah. So this is not, but the pressure is now bigger. We need to do it, execute it with higher speed. What is the main barrier from your perspective from Lithuania?
Well, there are many barriers, probably. The speed, yes, but I think it's all about like really balancing the speed, and in the organization, it starts with the proper prioritization, right? So you have to really have the trust that these projects, these initiatives are very well prioritized, and you have to believe that this focus from company is strongly grounded by certain purpose, by strong business cases, and you have dedicated teams for that. You have to really focus people on this, like we even call two-speed organization. So there is one part of organization which is really really securing operational things. It's all about maintenance. And there is a second speed of organization where we dedicate people to ensure the speed we need to move on. And in here, we select the best people, and they are not 10% dedicated to this project, but they are fully dedicated with full capacity and cross-functional team. This is very, very important to have cross-functional team, because usually it's end-to-end process. You have to really cut across. So marketing, sales, service, IT operations, all participate in this. And that's how you deliver the speed and ensure that people are focused on the right thing. But the start is with the right prioritization from organization, whether the whole organization understands where are the priorities, and that this is important for organization. And like my personal contribution will be noticed, and I will deliver to the things which are highly important to the organization.
Yeah, the question is always, how do you find out if people really do understand what they're talking about? What I've seen across many large-scale organizations is the bigger the organization, the more you're using words which you cannot explain by yourself. Yeah, I'm talking about large language models, yeah, AI agents and stuff like that. And all what's pretty interesting in large-scale projects is always to say, and this goes back to Cesar, is the bigger the organization, the less idea you have about what you're talking about, the more PowerPoints are being generated. Yeah. So there's a correlation of 1.0 between that. Yeah. If you have no freaking idea about the concept, so a bunch of PowerPoints are being generated. How do you prevent that, Cesar, if you start a project? Yeah. That you really make some sort of deep dive. You really understand what you're talking about. Do we really have the right skills on board? Since otherwise it remains some sort of theoretical platitude, but with no business value behind. Cesar, how do you do that?
I would know the real answer, I would be rich, Ralph, because I will write a book or something. Well, no, you are super. I really like to listen that question because this is my daily life. You know, guys, that I work for Kyndryl. Kyndryl is an American global company with we are in more than 60 countries, tons of employees, whatever, most probably as you are working in your company. So, well, my answer would go back to my first answer before. So it's about clarity and criteria. So how I survive and how we assure that still in a so complex organization, we continue working that. Well, I would like to say that I think, and you explained that very nicely in your intro, that the impactful CMO and the impactful professional, or I would say the very strong organization, is not because of deep technical knowledge. It's not because they understand everything. It's not because they have an answer for every question. It's because they have the right questions. It's because they are leaders for the change. It's because they are continuing asking, continue moving on, continue, as Sergio was saying, and Vaida, building and growing in the soft skill that I please ask all of us to stop saying soft skill, because our power skills are more hard than ever. So it's about this kind of development. It's because we team together with business. We speak the same language. We work side by side with our colleagues. So if I have a problem, we all have a problem, because we need to understand and to move on together. So all we are talking about all the time, as I think that we agree in all that, is not about more complexity because of the technology. It's because it's about when we have more complex questions, more different things. This is where we really need to show that we are leaders of change, that we can adapt ourselves, that we can build teamworks, high competence teams, and we act as a real team, as a human. So me, Cesar, myself, the way I approach the problems, the way I answer, the way I work with my colleagues is my unique strength. This is how the people want me to be in a room, because I want to give energy, not to steal energy. And all that, this is what is going to make me different. It's going to make me a leader, or someone who want me to be there to help. And it's not about my technical knowledge. It's not about the way I fix problems or I have all the answer. So I think this is how I work.
I do think, also adding what Vida said and you said, Cesar, it's basically you need to generate some sort of culture where it's okay to ask stupid questions, basically. Since
Correct.
the bigger the organization is, and you already have started a project, and you're talking about marketing automation or whatsoever, so I feel stupid if after 5 or 6 months I come back to your table and say, Cesar, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, so I come across as being stupid, or I didn't get the message. So really developing some sort of culture where people are also able to say, my dear, sorry, I'm missing the point. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yeah, it is not that I'm looking stupid, but really to say we all should have some sort of common target picture. And common target picture goes to a wonderful question I got from Amila from Sri Lanka. Amila, thanks for asking the question. What is your message to marketing educators worldwide? Which sort of skill sets do we need to train directly coming from universities or training institutions? Is it some sort of, let me phrase that way, classical marketing skills, yeah, understanding customer insights and really distilling customer insights and transferring this into activities? Or is it some sort more of flavor of technical skills? Or is it more sort of intercultural skills? Vida, what would you go for? Which sort of, if you have a wish list to the universities and marketing educators across the planet?
I'm a believer in fundamental things, and those classical things in marketing, all those P's, they always help you whatever situation you appear in. So first of all, you have to really know very well marketing fundamentals. And then probably on top, you can enhance the other areas. And of course, today, well, AI fluency, this is an area I'm really focusing to help my team, that we need to develop those skills in AI. And we need to know how to use it and how to validate outputs. And this is very different capability. But I'm not talking about turning marketeers into prompt engineers, but still, you have to be very focused on this. And I understand that, it's all about time. This is the most thing, additional time for you, because you still have to do your current job and fulfill the role, and you don't naturally have this additional time. And that is where people have to really sacrifice something to achieve those other dimensions which are needed for the technical part as well.
No. I have a wonderful question from Artem coming. What are the best motivators for staff in your opinion? And Laurence, I saw the intro video which you produced with my colleague Martin Heusmann. But I guess when it comes really to motivators and motivation of the team, you're really a strong model. How do you motivate your team? You said you're trying to pick out people who are better than myself, okay? But how do you motivate them afterwards? Since, from my opinion, it has something to do with money. Yes, yes, yes. But this is just one side of the equation.
Well, I think there's people like to have recognition, and people are extremely proud of the work they deliver. When the Belgian Marketing Association told me, Laurence, we would like to nominate you for the European Marketing Award, I said, thank you, but we're never going to win. We're a B2B company. We're in the middle of this $2 billion acquisition. We don't really have time for that. And then they said, Laurence, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for the team. Because we want the visibility, we want to have this aura, we want to be known for the great work we do. So I think it's about putting people in the spotlight and rewarding them for the great job they delivered. I think as CMOs, we don't need to be in the spotlight. I mean, we've been there, we earned where we are today, but we need to make our teams shine. And besides the financial rewards, I think it's the recognition, it's the pride, it's the internal marketing of what they have accomplished that makes them thrive. And then you need to celebrate successes. Whenever we win something or we do something great or we made something to the finish line, we celebrate together, and it gives a lot of joy. Someone once from Stanford University told me, every time there's something good, you get +1 on your counter. Every time there's something bad, and believe me, we make a lot of mistakes and we do fail a lot, it goes -3. So you need to have a lot of small successes to be able to bear the things that have a negative impact. And then on top of that, coming back to your question on who do you surround yourself with, there's two types of people. There's energy suckers and there's energizers. And I think, Cesar, you mentioned it as well. We want to be the energizers for our teams, but we also need to surround ourselves with people who give us a lot of energy.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's basically, we come back to something like classical leadership topics, yeah, at the end of a long working day. And I'm completely convinced, since what is pretty difficult now these days is everybody is able to use AI tools, and everybody at least can pretend to have an idea about the concept behind. But we as leaders, we need to ask some questions behind the curtain. And coming back also to one of the questions that we had before, and stepwise closing this round is, what are the things which you messed up and you still remember? So if I look at my 20 years in corporate organizations, I don't recall the little successes, but really the big failures where I really learned something like that. To phrase it positively, I learned something out of that. But Sergio, if you look back at your career, what are the things where you say, oh, holy shit, I should never have done that, but I learned something out of that. What is it?
Yeah. Fortunately, there are not many examples. There are some of them. I think mainly was about launching some products, important products and platforms that do not work as expected, and most of the cases were a bit ahead of the time. Those kind of products. So. In this idea of being a contemporary brand that is always ahead of the time, which is a good thing in terms of brand positioning, and we had probably some too early launches of products that some years later would perform better, but in a certain way we damage their potential for the future. So it's something that it's always an hard balance to achieve this kind of bring innovation that is really more disruptive, and at the same time be able to accept that probably it will take some time to capture its full potential and manage those kind of expectations. I think there's a lot on managing expectations also. Sometimes we are used so many successes that always whenever we launch a new product is expected to perform in the same way. And sometimes we need to have the courage to prepare the teams and it's more a strategic role. Probably it's not will achieve its full potential today, but it's strategic for the brand to be stronger in the near future. So mostly like about that.
How do you deal by that with projects on your end? Since sometimes if a project fails, and we all know 3/4 of projects will not deliver the results we expected to bring up, period. So it's a given fact. It's been testified with studies all over the place. How do you make it still work in a positive way so that it's not being perceived as a personal failure of your team members and yourself, but give it a positive? How do you do that?
Yeah. Because it's not personal. It's not personal. Usually you have obvious reasons, why things fail. And fortunately, I never faced in my teams the people who would be intentionally doing something wrong, and you just realize the situation. You evaluate the facts which are leading you to the decision that we have to reverse, we have to stop, we have to change something, and that's it. There are only facts on the table, no names. So people, of course, they are sad, they are frustrated. But somehow I think the culture inside the organization is allowing you to there is no blame culture here. So you can really feel it's your personal ambition which is suffering, but overall nobody is blaming, and we're trying just to understand and to learn from the situation. So it's really about fact information and what happened, just because to learn for the future, not to repeat it.
Yeah. Can you differentiate it, Cesar, between this is a professional situation versus you as a person? I always doubt that, since basically if I'm driving the project, I'm the project lead, it's my project, Basically my name is affiliated to it. Can you really differentiate it and still, even if it fails, still give it some sort of positive spin?
Yes. Well, in order to link with Vaida idea and with your question, I think that it's a matter of culture, that I think that it works not only for profession, but also not only for your professional, but for your personal life, that it's about, my mantra is ask for forgiveness, not for permission. Because many times, and this is one of my main faults in the past, trying to be perfect, you don't move on. And this is about to move on. Okay, so, and regarding your question, I think that we have the idea of that we are two different brains or mindset, the professional and personal, and we try to separate, okay, this is what I do at work, this is what I do at life, so I have my balance, and this is professional and personal. And I think that's completely wrong, because we are the same person all the time. So the beauty of the human being is to be able to manage your professional and your personal, and to develop both in every aspect, no? And you have listened to me that I push that we have, in order to be a very, very good professional, there is, first of all, a homework that you need to do yourself, that it should develop yourself. And this is when you are going to shine and to transmit to the other this kind of energy that Lawrence was talking before, and this kind of knowledge and and I think that we have, for the intelligence that we have the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And if you work with all these four aspects of your human being, this is where you got the perfect professional and personal match. And this is when you can give the best of yourself. And normally, as professional, we used to be very, very focused, maybe in the mental, in the social, and that's it. But we have our physical thing, you need to do a sport, you need to feel okay with yourself, and obvious the spiritual, meaning that you need to find your purpose, you need to understand why you are working, how you can give more to the others, how you can give to the others to grow together. And this is the spiritual aspect that we forget sometimes. So when you put all that together, you would be someone, a professional and personal person that you will shine.
Absolutely agree. But the question is, Cesar, we're all using electronic tools like this webinar this afternoon.
Yeah.
And all these sort of leadership styles, from my perspective, you need to have somebody really sitting directly in front of yourself, to really get the feeling how somebody is working, how somebody is feeling. Laurence, how do you do that? Do you try to get your team pretty often around yourself to have some sort of personal touch, or do you say, well, go wherever you are, we just meet once in a year and we are all fine off?
No,
That's very easy. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that it's very easy for us because we are Spanish, we are Latin, and we are Mediterranean. So we touch each other. We touch each other all the time. So easy for us. Go ahead, Laurence, sorry.
So it's a cultural thing. It's anyway not possible for you always working on electronic media. Good. Laurence, is it the same in Belgium?
We're a bit less into the hugging and touching. We're a bit more just kidding. But I love meeting my team in person. I'm in the office when I'm in Belgium every single day because I want to be available for them. But having marketeers in more than 86 countries across the globe, obviously it's not easy to meet them frequently. But to me, it's important to have frequent moments where we can exchange. And of course, throughout the year, that's a lot of digital touch points. But then we also make sure we meet physically. And this is where the magic happens, And it's not always during the presentations, but it's during the networking events, because this is where you learn from each other. You can share best practices. You can relate to the failures that you had, to learn from the successes that others had. So yeah, I very much favor the physical interactions, but we try to do everything we can with the digital tools that we have at hand. And nowadays, honestly, I agree, there's little, let's say, boundary between your personal life and your professional life, because there's always a way to get to you, be it through WhatsApp, through Teams, emails, messages. You basically are always connected and most of the time available for your teams.
But it means, summing up what you said, sometimes it's just good to see somebody in person. We need to have that. And looking back at my time at SAP or Volkswagen, the best time I always had was at night at the bar. I got them all. And seriously, and that's a reason also I focused on why projects are failing. It's not formal meetings and formal project plans. You need, just like in a soccer team, you need 11 people coming together and just start playing with each other. And this has nothing to do with formal meetings and your roles and hierarchies and all that stuff. Go out at night and have a glass of beer, or Vinho Verde, Sergio, for you on the other side. That's it. Now, saying this, I would like to cordially thank you very much. Thanks, Vaida. Thanks, Laurence. Thanks, Cesar and Sergio. Thanks for joining and teaming up with us for this afternoon. And for all feedbacks on the European marketing agenda, we are more than happy to get all the feedbacks we can ever get in terms of further enhancing, developing the marketing function across Europe. Celebrate the International Day of Marketing. And as I said, this evening is a perfect evening just to have a glass of wine, Vinho Verde, or a beer at the bar. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Thanks. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much. Obrigado.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.